Hi, I'm at Blanchette, Anderson Vision. I'm here today with the director, writer, and star of the fantastic new queer dance short horror film, Next in Line, Mr. Danny Dolan. Danny
Hi.
Dolan has worked with, oh my God, probably too many names to count here. Most recently, I believe, such luminaries as Harry Styles and Pedro Pascal. And it's part of this dance movement and this drought in the industry that he comes out of that inspired him to create Next in Line. So,
Yeah,
Danny, how are you this afternoon, this
I'm
evening?
good. How are you doing?
I'm genuinely blown away by the film.
Oh,
Uh,
okay, great.
yeah, what was there a specific like inspiration that you had for the film, or was it just like a bunch of different things that sort of came together in the script for you?
Well, I wanted to write something when people say, "Oh, write, but write what you know." So I took that and I wrote what I knew. And then I also wanted to make it a little more demented. I wanted to see how far I could push things. There's a certain position that assistants stay in. Like there's a certain lane, there's assistants and there's choreographers. And to bridge that is more difficult than I think people understand because once you're looked at as an assistant, it sometimes you're only looked at as an assistant, but most likely you have a vision, you have a choreographic voice, and that goes with a lot of other industries and jobs. Like if you're an assistant at an office, but you know that you could run a board meeting, sometimes it's hard to like graduate up to that. So I wanted to highlight the LA choreography scene. Also, I haven't seen a movie about choreographers, so I wanted to just kind of dive into that world and actually show people that the same kinds of struggles happen within that industry as well as being a dancer or being a performer or being an actor. It's all a lot of rejection. It's a lot of almosts. It's a lot of what do I need to do to like stay current, to stay in the game, to continue to book jobs. So I wanted to explore all of that.
And I think as much as well as you're describing it right now, having seen the film, you really depicted it just, about as well as that can be said. Because the
Well,
way
thanks.
you open the picture, at the same time as the other thing is going on, as depicted on your gorgeous looking crew hoodie there,
Yeah.
is sort of is Misha and Travis having this discussion about the choreography job that he doesn't get, this big
Right.
Adidas job. And it feels properly lived in. I mean, it feels like a conversation you've probably had many times. Um,
Yep.
were you hoping to teach people this sort of the facts of it while also scaring the bejesus out of them?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to shed some light on some things and then also have a really good time. And, I have such an affinity for horror films. Ever since I was a little kid, I've loved horror films and twisted, demented movies and movies that kind of push boundaries. And so I wanted to kind of marry those two loves and see what I could come up with and see like how far I could really go with certain uh, certain situations. I lose out on jobs all the time, but I don't go and like try to, you know, do certain things to certain people in order to
Oh yeah,
possibly
no.
get those jobs. So, I wanted to see how something that happens all the time on the daily that doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. I wanted to see if it was that big of a deal. How far could we go with it?
Yeah, I did want to ask the look of Travis, was it, without that gorgeous, mane you have, was that
Yeah.
purposeful? Because I remember when you were doing the camera tests, you had the beard. And
Yeah.
now that I've seen the
Um,
picture, it's like, okay, is that, a character choice?
yes, for sure. I wanted him to look a little bit younger and a little bit more like fresh-faced and kind of twinkier. than I naturally am. And I also just wanted some sort of change. I wanted to, look not like me, and look a little bit like Travis. In a feature version that I'm working on now that I'm writing, Travis is younger. He's like, I am not. Um, a young person anymore. But Travis, I think, would be like late 20s, and I'm not late 20s. So I wanted to kind of like give him a little bit more naivete around the industry. Willow and Nisha are, in their 40s and they've been doing it for so long. And
Right.
Travis is kind of just getting into this thing and just kind of finding his voice. So I wanted to look a little bit younger in that.
Is the feature version going to have the same cast? I mean, hopefully you're still keeping yourself in the mix, but is it going to be like an expanded
I
sort of?
mean, the way that I'm envisioning it is that I would just direct it and someone else would play Travis. I would, I've chatted with Tat about a feature length, and I think of course she would be game to do it. I need to write it all the way first. But I would love her involvement in any way that she would want to be involved. I would love to keep Reshma, who plays Misha.
Oh, she just
Um,
said she wonderful, wonderful job.
uh, she's so good. I would probably, because Christina would be a bigger part in this. Like we would actually find out who Christina is, and I am open to casting a wide net to see who would want to be a part of this.
The way
We'll
that,
see.
yeah, the way that Christina and Willow sort of blend together. You did mention and this is crowdfunded on Seed and Spark for those who
Yes.
don't know. The way that you did mention that Altman's Three Women was an influence on, how this picture would develop. Um, which I thought was interesting, having going back and rereading that because I know again, for anyone who it doesn't know who Tat is
Yeah.
Tatiana Maslany,
Mhm.
who is played Willow in this, and who helped crowdfund this picture. And Christ, she's fantastic in this. She's fantastic in anything. But I know, I think she mentioned Three Women on another, as a reference for another picture she did with Osgood Perkins. And I'm not,
Mm.
did she bring that to you, or was that already in the mix and you kind of came together on that?
That was already in the mix, on the Seed and Spark campaign page, they ask for you to kind of throw out a few comps for what visually and stylistically, story-wise, like what you're kind of going for so people understand, like, oh, I chose Black Swan, Ingrid Goes West, and Three Women. The like melding of people and personalities and like energies, and also the desert setting of Three Women I found so fascinating, especially like the end where you're like kind of locked in on Sissy Spacek and she's kind of become who Shelley Duvall was, and it's just so like subtly done but like masterfully done. And the fact that it's set out in the desert in this like kind of barren wasteland of a place, I was also intriguing to me to kind of like compare that to it. But yeah, I mean, where does Christina end and Willow begin? They were together for so long as choreographers and lovers, and being rejected in two ways is kind of a hard pill to swallow, I think. And so, when you're creating so in tandem with someone, it blurs the lines of like, oh, whose voice is this? Is this my voice? Is this your voice? Is this our voice that we're creating together? And then what happens when that fractures? And like you have to figure out who you are apart from this person that you've worked with or created with.
You even literally do that by having, during the initial acid trip scene, having Willow suddenly say a line, in Travis's voice. I mean,
Yeah.
that's intentional. That's well, thematically, that's so rich. You've had so much experience in front of the camera, I'm sure, behind the camera. Was there any fear at all, playing the part in front of the camera and directing? Like, were you a little worried that you might neglect one over the other, or was it like, no big deal? You got people on the set who are just gonna make sure.
Yeah, I mean, my husband throughout this whole thing was like, you don't have to direct this. And I was like, but I do have to direct it. I do. It's like the thing that this is my baby. This is my vision, and I want to do it all. I don't know when I'll be able to get the chance to direct and star and choreograph and produce and write. Like I wanted to do as much as I could. And so, yes, I was a little bit cautious in going in and, um, directing, acting, producing, doing it all. But I had an incredible team. I could not have done this without the team behind me. My husband, one, Leonora Pitts, who was the other producer of this, and also was my eyes. When I was on screen, she was my eyes. I brought in people that I trusted. I trusted their vision. I trusted their education and their background. And I trusted what they brought to this project. And so when I was on screen, Lily knew exactly what I wanted out of the performances. And, when we said cut, she would come up to me and say, "Oh, this works here, this doesn't work." So it was great to like have different eyes on things at all times.
This took about, I think, 3 days to shoot, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. three
Th
days.
3 days,
It-
three and a
Were,
half.
were you expecting it to be, was that longish, shortish for you, or were you hoping for a little bit more time, or were you hoping for,
Oh, if we had a week, Matt, come on, I would have loved a week. Thank I'm so grateful for our DP, Tammy Santos. We were outside, so like the weather is so unpredictable. A cloud could come in and just stay there for hours, and suddenly it's darker out when it was sunshiny the first part of the scene. So like she did an incredible job, but she is so good. Like she and I met many times before we even started filming. And I think one day we had 26 setups, which is an insane number of things to like try to do it. Sometimes like on that Saturday that we were shooting, we had 26 things to do in between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. because everything was daylight dependent. And she made sure that we got all of those shots. She is incredible. And not once was she like, I don't know, you might want to pivot. She was like, all right, let's do it. We're going to get this. We're going to get it. And that's the kind of team that I had behind me that was like, they so believed in me, in this vision, in this story, and they just everyone was operating at their fullest potential, and we kind of created a set where that was possible, where
right?
everyone was valued equally and where people could really shine. It was a small crew, and Tammy kind of ran the show on that one and just made sure that we got all of the shots that we needed to get, as well as Gabe and Lily, the producers. They made sure that we
And
got everything as well. But Tammy was the one I would look to Tammy and say, "Can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this?" And she would be like, "We got it. Let's do it."
speaking of
Like,
the crew and the
yeah,
cast, this was an
yeah,
equitable production. This $50,000, if I'm
hmm
recalling correctly.
yeah.
I was quite happy to be one of those who contributed, and
Thank you.
everyone was paid equally. All the casts were paid the same, the crew were paid the same. So I am glad to point that out. Just
Thank you.
this is one
Yes.
of those, properly ethical productions.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to go in. There's movies like Sing Sing that came out a couple of years ago that really championed that model of
Right.
equitability for all of the people involved, and we really wanted to continue that with our production and allow people to have the same amount of agency and uh, like all the stakes were the same. Like or they were pretty equal where people were in it for the same amount. And that was really important and also kind of leveled the playing field for everyone, where there wasn't some sort of hierarchy of I'm getting paid more and therefore I'm more important and you're getting paid less, so go get me coffee. A lot of sets operate on like the lowest paid is the hardest working,
Right.
and this was everyone got paid equally and everyone worked their fucking butts off.
And I've always heard it, I've heard this from several different people who worked with her, is that Tat Maslany is the best number one you can have on a call sheet.
I
Now, I'm going
mean,
to assume you were the number one on the call sheet here, but would you agree on that though?
she was number one.
Oh, she was
I
number
didn't
one.
I didn't want to put myself as number one.
Oh,
I was number one in other ways. But she is, I mean, an absolute dream, and a dream to work with, a dream to collaborate with, a dream to be friends with. Like she is, like she really showed up for this in a way that is still so surprising and inspiring to me. I asked a lot of her, and I know that she's very, as you and I have discussed, she's a very busy
yeah,
working actor.
yeah.
She is working on so many things, and rightly so. She is so incredibly gifted and generous. She's one of the most generous people I have ever met. And like zero ego, zero attitude, just shows up, does her job and has a great time doing it. And that is inspiring to me to like just be a great person. It
God, yeah.
takes so much less work
Yeah.
in this world if you're just a great person. And yeah, it was a dream team, dream collaboration with her.
Did she bring some of her own ideas to it, or was it all you were the fella sort of
Oh no,
with all the ed- Oh,
she brought ideas,
oh,
and
like what?
a lot of some of those ideas got into the movie. She and I had many discussions about character and what is seen and what is not seen and when things are seen. I had the just as an example, I had when she's mixing the kombucha in
Right.
the original version, you saw the vial of acid. But she was like, what if we don't? And it gets revealed later when I reveal that that's what I did to you. I was like, you see, that's why I brought you on this production. Like, just ideas like that, I was so happy to receive and to work with her on that because I always want the best idea to be the thing that gets done. Whether I think of it, whether Tat thinks of it, whether the boom operator thinks of it. It doesn't matter. If there's an idea that is better than what I had in my head, let's do that. I don't have any ego around that. Great. Then we captured this thing and we're all the better for it.
Yeah, it's just it shines through in just how much of it is a team effort, just in watching it, just in experiencing it.
Yeah.
I am curious about some of the details, and we're going to head into spoiler territory here.
Okay.
So, fair warning to everyone watching
You've
this
been
later.
warned.
You've been warned. Were you expecting Willow to be defeated initially?
Oh yeah, she was
Defoot?
always going to
No,
die.
defooted.
Oh, Willow doesn't get defooted.
No, I know, but
Yeah.
it's funny that
Yeah.
what was that something you came up with? The whole I'm going to take your foot, I'm going to take your power. Was that?
Yes.
And
Yeah,
so,
no. People have asked, like, is that a real thing? I'm like, no, absolutely not. I totally made it up, and it kind of came from, the Lucky Rabbit's foot. I was like, what would be the worst thing that you could do to a movement creator that would really alter how they navigated the world after it's
right.
done? And I think like, removing a foot because we're so reliant on them, especially as dancers and creators of movement, that I was like, oh, that's right. And then I did some research around, connectivity with like what body part is connected to your creativity, to your intuition, to all of the like kind of right-brained things. And it's a direct line from the right brain to the left
But
foot.
it probably added expense to making the prop feet.
Oh yes. I mean not a lot, but yes, it was part of the budget. Dear friend Morgan Muda, who was lined up to be the key makeup artist on and makeup designer, had to drop out, but she cast the feet before she left, which was great. Carissa, who plays Christina, she and I sat with her and cast our own feet, and I still do have those feet in my closet.
Uh, from the moment Travis first sees Willow, she walks out of the house and she starts emphasizing her feet, putting them against the door. I'm like,
Yeah.
was that scripted? Was that performance? Like, what in the heck?
Oh,
Looking back on it, I'm like,
that was all tat, honestly. Every time I would watch that footage, I would scream laugh, and I was like so excited to see her just like stretch her legs, literally stretch her legs. As actors, a lot of times we don't get to really just go for things. Um, and I really just wanted her to explore and be as wild and free as she wanted to, and to discover as much as she could, and to stay curious about who Willow was and like what Willow would actually be doing. And she really just nailed everything. And that, like the foot inchworming up the door was
yeah,
so weird and so funny
yeah,
that I had to keep it in, and that's one of my favorite parts of the whole.
yeah. And I love too that you basically, when you're watching it, you don't realize it, but the toenail paint.
Yeah,
It's sort of it sign points the ending a little bit
right.
when we finally see, Restra's character, at the end. Again, this is
Yeah,
spoilers.
yeah.
You don't even need to say whose foot it is. You know.
It's
So
Travis's foot. He's gone.
where in the heck did the clown makeup come from?
Well, I wanted.
I because I loved it. I loved it. I saw those on-set photographs. I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And now that I've
Well,
seen it, I'm like, okay.
I was like, what's something that is like, what would Willow find demeaning or belittling? And what could she possibly find in Christina's costume closet that she could dress Travis up as? Because, she's put on Christina's old recital outfit.
Right.
And, that's kind of a throwback to childhood and to like where things began for her and for a lot of dancers and creators. And I thought, what could Willow do to Travis to signify that she thinks that he's not there to, as she says, push the needle forward? And she just views him as this clown, as this like, you know, person that's there for a good laugh and there to, have a good time, but there's not a lot of substance. She thinks that there's not a lot of substance to him or to clowns.
I did want to ask, there's a repeated motif with the triangle on the screen and the way
Mm-hmm,
they sort of bisect or trisect the screen with these, this repeated movement. When I first saw a glimpse of I think this must have been when you were color timing,
mm-hmm,
and you posted an update showing that opening. I'm like,
mm-hmm,
well, is that a logo or what is that? But
mm.
now that I've seen the whole feature, it made me think of this silent movie from like 1913, one of the first female directed films in history,
Mm-hmm.
called Suspense.
Oh,
Directed by Lois Weber,
okay.
shot in Beverly Hills. And there's a scene where Lois Weber's character and her husband are talking on the phone. It's a split screen, but it's a
Mm-hmm.
triangular split screen. So
Mm.
in this third corner, you see this guy entering the house, and it's all simultaneous. And
Yeah.
I was like, well, there's no way he could have seen that. But I
No.
thought to myself, it's such a swing. Even if I don't understand what it means,
Mm-hmm.
I love that it's there. So what
Thanks.
what does it mean?
Well, the shape of the altar is a triangle. The triangle has a lot of, sacred geometry. It's three pieces. There's the base, and then there's two leaning. And, this is kind of a triangle between Christina and Willow and Travis that then gets with Misha. And the triangle also for me was kind of like a blade, like a shovel. And it kind of cuts into a lot of the footage to bring in the next scene or bring in the next act. And so I kind of wanted to like keep just like cutting and interrupting, and it's kind of like a wedge.
Was that in the script, or did that come through in editing? I'm like, I have an idea. We can do this.
It came through honestly in editing. Our editor Anisha Acharya is incredible, and she did a pass of it and sent it to me. And that opening with the triangle and the boom and all of
Yeah.
that was there. Like that was the first thing that I saw, and I was like, okay, we're on to something. Like this is a great opener. This is incredible. I love this. And she took the shape of the altar and just like mimicked that. So that was all her. And then we just kind of together we figured out how to incorporate more and more of that triangle, that wedge of like, oh, we're being interrupted. Oh,
Yeah.
we're being interrupted.
When did you decide this is the logo? When did you decide the triangle is the image for
That
the film? Yeah.
like pretty early on. Like the altar is our
Right.
friend Ryan's altar. That's from his house that we shot at. We
Ryan
shot at our
Heffington.
friend
Yeah.
Ryan Heffington's house.
Yeah.
And he had that altar, and I was like, oh, okay, that's the altar. That is where she conducts all of her magic.
Was he all right
And
with you turning it into this, evil web symbolism?
yes, he was definitely okay with that.
Ryan
Um,
Heffington, by the way, for people listening, is the founder of Dance Church, which is one of the best things you can do, best places you can go to. Just one of those places that really help people, particularly during the pandemic.
yeah,
Parenthetically to that, Danny Dolan runs a wonderful workshop dance called Bananas
that's right.
every week.
Yeah.
And that is just, I haven't heard nothing but good things about that as well.
Oh, thank you.
So
Thanks.
going into the subject of dance, I did remember the initial camera tests. There were particular movements that you had Tat doing, like this clearing of space that you do as a dancer was one that
Mhm.
I know you had mentioned. But Willow does a lot of very specific dance moves, in particular during, the ketamine scene and the poolside scene. Could you explain a little bit about specific moves that you had her doing and why, you had
Mhm.
her doing those movements in that, moment?
Yes, for sure. Thank you for asking that. I'll talk about a bit about the like pool, what we call the poolside conjure, which was when she needs Travis to drink the acid kombucha. And coming up with that movement, I just had in mind like she has to really focus on Travis, who's just sitting there, and she has to be like throwing energy his way in order for him to do what she wants. And there's this like moment where she's like doing this to her throat and then like pulling down her body. And that's the like big signifier that she is making him drink this drink. It is going down his throat into his body, and that is how she's doing it.
I love not just how she played it, but how you played the reaction shots because when he's starting to reach over, you're not sure, the viewer isn't sure if he's going for the kombucha or if he's going for the phone. But
Right.
the way you play it, it's very clear to the audience which one you're going for.
Right. I had no choice.
I know, and but you played that so well. I adored just your performance, just as that character that
Thank
you
you.
obviously wrote. But I'm just like, geez, I know everyone loves Tom Madlani, but this is
Yeah.
your picture too, man. Not
Thank
just
you
as a
for
director, but as an actor. Oh my
Thank
God,
you. Thanks.
was that like a set? Is this part of stuff that is known between you and Tat as dancers, or is it just something that you created on the day? or before the day, prior to the day?
We created it together beforehand. We had a few rehearsals beforehand, just so that she was the most comfortable that she could be with the material. And she has her own way of moving, which I absolutely love. I didn't want her to look like me doing it. I wanted her to look like her doing it. I just wanted to give her the framework of these are the moves and then put yourself into them, however that looks, and we'll see what happens. And that's what she did.
I can only imagine how tricky it must have been to get a day shot and a night shot to line up like that. I mean, you probably worked out your angles, hundreds of times already, but it's seamless. It's seamless. How did that wind up working out? Did you wind up shooting on two separate days or
No,
for
we
that?
sh we just shot that night, and honestly, I didn't know if that was going to work. I just had this like idea in my head of, okay, well, what if Willow like takes us into some other place, into some dark void? We've seen the dark void a lot with Under the Skin and
Right.
Get Out and Stranger Things and all of that, but I wanted it to feel like of the same place, just with a different energy. Like she is pulling Travis down into this other realm, and that's what I wanted. And I didn't know if it would work, so we shot it thinking that we were also going to shoot that dance sequence in the daytime so that we could, in case it didn't work, we could always just keep it. But then we shot it, and I was like, we're good. This is gonna work, and I just am gonna commit to it and say yes, this is how it's going to go. Because the footage I thought was so
Yeah.
beautiful. Our Steadicam operator was great, Matt or City. He was just like willing to dance with us, which was great.
Did the green light mean anything specific, or was it just a green light?
That's just a strobe. So I'm not sure. It wasn't an actual color, but I think it was just
Oh,
picking up on things. We had red lights, and then we also had just like a white strobe going.
yeah.
So it would like catch different
Ah,
because she had green shorts on, and it would catch different colors
yeah.
and then kind of like throw you back into darkness as well.
And the editing is incredible. I should mention that. But were there moments that you were like, we can't shoot this. We're going to have to sort of bridge it in editing? Like we don't see Willow really falling into the pool. We see her get out of it.
We shot in February and it was very cold. It was very cold. The fact that Tat
Even
got in that
even in the
water
desert, my goodness.
in the desert, yes. I mean, that water was freezing. I also had to jump in that water
Yeah,
and when I dive in. So
that
I
was a
was like,
good
okay,
dive.
I'm not going to ask Tat to do something that I also am not willing to do. So I jumped in and she was incredible and gracious enough to get in, but being thrown in the water is another stunt. And we didn't have a lot of time or
Right.
clearance to actually do that. There were certain things that I really wanted to have happen, but with limited time and a limited budget, we
Yeah.
had to, like pivot. And also safety. Safety is an
Yeah.
issue. There's less like known if I'm just throwing her into a pool as opposed
Right.
to throwing her onto a pad. There's more that we can control in that. Another example is like when Travis falls off the shed when she comes after
Right.
him. He was gonna fall off and then roll all the way down the hill and like
Mm,
end further away. And when we went out to do Tech Scout with the stunt coordinator, Jess, he was like,
yeah.
you're gonna have to not do this. It's too involved. At that point, I was like, well, I'm in a Speedo. I hadn't even like figured out the clown part yet. And I was like, going to be in a Speedo, tumbling down a very rough hill. And that is for a stunt person, and I'm not a stunt person. And then we would have had to hire a stunt person, which we didn't have the budget for. So
Right.
I had to really kind of rein in like ideas. We call it killing. You have to kill some babies in this because like some of these ideas were like my precious babies, and I
Yeah.
had to get rid of them and say, all right, we're pivoting. We're doing something else. We had to pivot a few times in order to keep everyone safe and to keep everyone happy.
I'm going to pivot here real quick.
Yeah.
Uh, just bringing it back to something you said earlier.
hmm
what was the first scary movie that you saw that really put the peer scary movies into you?
I have two. I was a gymnast when I was little, and we would go on road trips to meets. Like we would go to a different city to compete. And the whole team would pile into the back of a van and go on an overnight trip I grew up in Kansas, and we would go to Wichita, or we would go to Dodge City, or we would go to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I mean, there was probably 12 of us in the back of a giant van that was just like carpeted, and all the older kids would sit in the back, and all the younger kids would sit in the front. And I remember hearing the two coaches talk about Nightmare on Elm Street. It had just come out. This was 1984, and I was 7, and they were just talking about it. I hadn't seen anything about it. They just kept talking about this like burnt up guy that would show up in your dreams, and all of the kind of details of it. And that terrified me and intrigued me. I was like, what is this? I have to see this movie. So I did watch it when I was 8, which might not have been the smartest thing. But I also watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre at a friend's house when I was 8 as well. That was
Oh,
a friend of mine who was also on the gymnastics team with me, whose parents had less of a leash on him. That, they allowed him to do a lot of things that probably 8-year-olds aren't supposed to be watching that movie. But those two movies really shaped my childhood in regards to like what I could handle, and also what I was interested in, and what kind of stories I was interested in, and then also what kind of stories I wanted to tell.
and on top of that, were there specific maybe stage productions, musicals, or musical films that made you want to dance to be in that field as well?
Yeah, I remember West Side Story is a huge one. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
And I've been able to be in that production a couple of times, and that has been
Have
incredible.
you been Riff Raff?
No, I was
Oh,
Diesel. I was just like, one of the guys, one of the Jets.
yeah, if you're one of the Jets,
Yeah. And then Bye Bye Birdie was
My
a big
sister
one
was
for
in
me.
Bye Bye Birdie. My
It's
little sister was in Bye Bye Birdie in high school. Oh my God. So I've got so many memories of going to see that. She had
yeah.
so much fun doing that.
It's so good. And I remember my mom had the album of it, and I would just sit and listen to Telephone Hour over and over again because I'd never heard anything musically like that. My mom was a choreographer and a dancer as well. And so I was in things that she would choreograph, but I never was like in a dance studio. I didn't take dance classes or anything. I started dancing much later in my life. But Bye Bye Birdie and West Side Story, I think, were the two kind of like key ins for me with movement and music and singing and acting and all of the things,
I love the passion, the very evident passion that you put into this. I know this is getting its festival premiere at the Inside Out in Toronto on
Mhm.
the 27th.
Yes.
Um, so I'm assuming you're flying out for that in a couple of days. I know how busy you've been though.
Yes.
Is it going to be a whole cast premiere or
No, just me.
well, I'm sure you'll get a standing ovation, man. And then
Oh.
I think it's Oslo after that.
Yeah, we'll go to the movie will go to Oslo. I won't go to Oslo. It's
All
too
right.
soon after Toronto to get there, um and then so far we'll go to Nevada City after that in June, at the end of June. That's up by Tahoe in Northern California.
And that'll be a whole cast sort of
We're
or
gonna try to get as many of us as we can up there. It's about 9 hours away from LA, so it's not the closest, but also
yeah.
not the
I
furthest.
have a question here from one of my good friends.
Okay.
His name is Henning. Don't know that he contributed to the crowdfund, but
Oh
he
yeah, from Germany?
oh he did?
Yeah.
Henning. Oh, okay. I didn't realize he did. Oh
Sesta
yeah, no,
Hulk
yeah, he's great.
on Instagram.
He says, I guess what I'm curious about is what the process of choreographing this film, if it was just him doing his character and Tat doing hers, and then they built it from there. Or if he already had ideas for how Willow should move, basically, how involved was he in choreographing all the different characters? And
Mm.
did Kat bring her own dance experience into it? And was there any improv involved? Or was it all just extremely technical and planned out to match the camera work?
There was a bit of improv. There's a tap dancing sequence that Willow does on the roof, like in before she kind of really encounters Travis, and that was a collaboration between she and I because Tat does tap,
Right.
and I wanted her to just like be able to string along different phrases that she was really comfortable with that also kind of were a little bit more schmaltzy and a little bit more um kind of like this is my first recital
And it
like
works so well with
it
the costume too. It works so well with the
yeah
costume.
yeah. But everything else was very set in our bodies, and it because a lot of it depended on camera angles and camera movement, and I wanted the two of us to be as comfortable with all of the movement as possible. So we kind of locked that in pretty early on before we started shooting.
Considering how important, and unapologetically queer this is to you,
Mhm.
you are and the project is, are you hoping that, some young queer kid in Kansas sees this and says, I want to do that, or holy shit, this terrified me, or I want to
All
see
of
a
it.
feature version?
Yeah, I think as a queer kid in Kansas, I would have loved to have seen something like this. And that's, I think, what I want to continue making. You know, I see a lot of memes about like, make the thing that your teenage self would be proud of or whatever. And it's really true. It's like, I just want to make things that the little kid in me would be so excited about watching. I want to make that little dreamer proud. And me as a little kid, that little dreamer. And then I also want to make the little dreamer out in Kansas that is now growing up and doesn't have much queer representation that they're seeing. I want to be a voice for them in any way that I can. I have more in my wheelhouse than this movie. I have other queer stories to tell.
I know. It's kind of a fraught time for, you know, queer life.
Yeah.
So if somebody can see this and maybe be inspired, even if they're in Kansas where, I mean, they're trying to ban trans people from driving. So
It's
what
insane.
if someone can maybe find something in this, even if it's not specifically this story that you're telling, maybe it's
Right.
another story you're telling. Maybe it's something you or your husband come up with later down the line.
Yeah.
If they can find something there, then I think that's what this is for.
Yeah. I agree. I,
As a disabled guy who's not queer, I'm sorry, but I do who does have this. It's a bit. I know it's reversed, but it
yeah.
says,
No, you're right on. I can read it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just it's so important to see representation,
Yeah.
even if it's just in horror, even if it's just a crazy person who's out chopping people's feet off,
Right.
even if it's somebody who's not perfect, but who you can relate to. A minority doesn't have to be perfect to be human.
Right.
So that's what, at least in part, Next in Line, I think delivers along with everything else.
Yeah.
It's so well put together, and it's so evidently a labor of love
Hmm.
from Danny Dolan. I hope every single person who sees it gets it, that they're not like, hopefully not put off by some of it, that they take it in and take the artistry of it too
Hmm.
with open arms. What's next for you? I know you last year you worked with Pedro Pascal
Hmm.
on a really fantastic commercial one. So
For
what's
Apple.
next for you?
Festivals and continuing writing the feature version of this film and just being as creative as possible, really.
Are you going to see them sparking again, or are you hoping to try and
I
get a
don't
different?
know. I'm hoping to try to get some other folks attached that can kind of move it to the next level of
I know how
uh,
tricky film
yeah,
finance can be.
yeah. We'll
So,
see.
yeah. So I just, above all, people, if you're able to see this in Toronto, in Oslo, Norway's lovely this time of year, or in, was it Nevada?
Yeah.
Nevada.
No, sorry, California, Nevada City, California.
Nevada City, California. Sorry.
Yeah.
If you're able to see it in any of those places, go see it. The film is next in line, written, directed by, choreographed by, starring Danny Dolan himself. Absolute genius. And
Thank you.
this has been Anderson Vision. I'm Matt Blanchette, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time, man. I
You're
really,
welcome, Matt.
really appreciate it. I
Thank you
enjoyed
for
this film.
supporting this project
Hey, it
throughout
was the
its
least I could do,
entirety.
man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, have a great rest of your day.
You too, man. Thank you.